Okay, today we're going to be working on my 6-year-old son, Callie, his cow, Polaris Sportsman 90. This thing has been ridden pretty hard. I don't know if we've done any videos on this one or not yet, but we've done a lot of work to this thing. These things, if we've ever done, or should have done, a review video, these things are not made for running hard. These are backyard cruisers for letting the kids ride around in, perhaps your nice lawn. They are not very durable, to say the least. They're not actually made by Polaris. They're made by a Taiwanese company that Polaris farmed it out. I did not know that at the time I bought it, which was very upsetting. I thought I was buying an American-made four-wheeler. But there are markings on these. In close. That's the company right there, Aeon. You can see. I'm trying to get some good lighting in there. Those markings on the engine. That is the company who manufactures these things. The Yamahas, I know for a fact, have the same exact engine and drivetrain. These things, the wheels, the suspension's pretty much all the same. Plastics are different. Advantage of buying one of these over, say, a just generic no-name Chinese brand is that you can get parts for these from these manufacturers. You can go into a Polaris dealer and get parts for these. Unfortunately, if like us, you buy one and try to ride it hard, this thing's been in several states, riding through rivers. We've gone through endless bearings. We thought we had some internal bearings that needed replaced at one point. They were saying about a $1,200 repair. I was not willing to attempt it myself. Somehow, not really sure, we were able to avoid that or evade it. They suddenly said, oh, maybe not, maybe it's not that. And anyway, I think it needs some clutch work. We've done a chain tensioner that ripped apart on us on one trip. We had some of the connections in the ignition switch on the backside, some solder joints or wires break out in the woods. We're actually in the Tennessee Wildlife Management area, about 600,000 acre area that we were in, and had that happen out in the middle of the woods. Fortunately, we were able to get things apart up on this pod and fix it with just a multi-tool that I had in my pocket, at least enough to get back, because we had no electric start. These things do have a Kickstarter, but basically it wouldn't run because of the wires that broke. It basically thought the key was off, is the way I recall. It's been some time now, but anyway, these are not super durable quads. They need babied, and if you need to ride them hard like we have, just plan on fixing a lot. We have a lot of spare parts. They go through brakes like crazy. The front brakes, I think we've done twice. There's not much wear. I think if you wear about a 1/16 of an inch off the front drum shoes, there's small little shoes in there, small little drum there. The shoes are very small. If you wear about a 1/16 off, they're totally out of spec. The adjusters cannot reach. You have no brakes. And one time in West Virginia, my 12-year-old, at the time I think was about 8 or 9, we had no brakes, and I didn't even know it until he almost went over the side because he couldn't stop, and he tried to avoid running into my oldest guy. So you really got to pay attention to these brakes, especially if you're going to, really take these things out and ride them. I don't know if that had something to do with being totally submerged, if these are, the material that these specific shoes are made out of for this cannot really handle that, being soaked and then being used. I don't really know. I just know that we have replaced them several times already. and we always keep spare sets with our out-of-state totes when we go in our spare parts, so that we're not sidelined on this machine. But a couple little mods, got a little light bar in there. Let's see, little wire to the left that is not ours. It's a factory wire. But in any case, we kind of cut out the original plastic that was there and put a little light bar in there to make things interesting. And we were able to wire up a switch that operates both the factory lights and the light bar. You can select between them, not run both at the same time. This does not have a charging system for that, but we'll make another video with a little more detail about that. But in any case, because this is ridden by younger riders, that mod was a pretty good one. I put a relay in there inside that pod. There's tons of room. It's operated off the key switch, so if they turn the machine off with the key, the light is automatically off. You don't have to worry about them killing the battery. Some people want to wire things directly to batteries and stuff, but that's a good way to end up with a dead battery. And these little batteries in these machines, they go dead a couple times. They're toast. So our old 50, we replaced the battery 5 or 6 times on, from them leaving the key on with just the indicator light, able to smoke the battery down to nothing, and they just don't recover from that. So in any case, we'll do another video with a little more detail on that. That was a pretty good mod I like on this, and I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about these lights. You know, the fact that they only run when the engine is running, and they're not really considered a headlight. I think technically they call them a driving light for safety. They don't really want youth riders running at night, but we do. I'm sure some of you out there do as well. Anyway, we'll do another video on that. Today, focus on the chain. Just feel like there's a lot to talk about on this machine. There's been a lot of work done to it. We're just going to go with the roller chain, replace the original O-ring chain. We've never replaced this chain yet. We have done the tensioner, which doesn't really like the mud, the dirt, and the water, the way it's set up. But for purposes of this video, we're going to try to stick, at least for now, starting now, to just the chain. This chain's shot. It's been shot for a while, but he'd been riding the 50 mostly, and 12-year-old been riding the 250, so this thing had been kind of mostly sitting around for a couple of years, and now he's outgrown the 50 and is onto this full time, and it's time to get this chain taken care of. So with that, I'm going to try to do as minimal removal of parts as I often do as possible, because I think that practically speaking, that's what we all want to do, remove the minimum. I'm hoping that I can get away with simply removing this front sprocket cover, which has 2 screws. There's one down low, one up high, and I've already located the master link, which I'll get it wiped off, but let's see. I think somebody moved it. Somebody rolled this axle. The boys were out here messing around, so. There's the master link. So, they'd been out here messing with the jack and rolled it around. I had it kind of positioned where I could get to it real easy. This is an O-ring chain that comes on these. And if you have looked up a new chain for this, I think the factory chain's like $100. Now that's not to say it's not worth it. Some people are big believers in the O-ring chain. I've got to say this thing is held up to this point, which has kind of been a miracle. I'm not willing at this point to throw a $100 chain on here. I got the new chain for like 30 bucks. I'd rather replace this other chain 3 times than buy a single $100 chain, at least at this point. time will tell, as it sometimes does, whether or not that was the wise decision. But in any case, I'm really hoping that between popping that master link off and really just removing that front sprocket cover, we should be able to pop this bad boy off and get the new one sized up and put on. So with that, we'll get to it. Alright, tapped into my garage bit kit for an extension here, and kind of makes for the perfect setup. Trying to one hand this. Perfect setup. Get this thing off. So I know that if anybody asks, the brand that my buddy had was the Husky brand. It was like the Home Depot labeling. I think this company, Gear Wrench, might be who makes it for them. My kit is slightly different, but it's like 15 bucks for this whole thing. And it's worth just keeping around. I keep this actually in my truck for when we're out of town and have some basic fixes. We bring other tools, but this is just something that's small and can ride on the truck and always, cover a decent cross section of what you may encounter. But in case anybody's curious, again, 15 bucks. I found this, I ordered it on the Home Depot website, searched high and low after I saw his. His was Husky branded. By the time I saw it, they didn't have them anymore under that branding in the store. So that's where you can get them. Just real quickly, didn't want to skim over anything. I'm going to remove this rear cover as well. Sprocket and chain cover. There's two 12mm bolts here on the side that are holding it on. And before I forgot, I did want to point out that the screw from that front sprocket guard, sorry, somebody pulling up here, is a number 3 Phillips, a number 3. So you want to make sure you want to make sure that you're using the right Phillips. You want to make sure you got number 3, or else you'll strip that thing out. If you go sticking a number 2 on there, it's gonna be a P3. If you go sticking a number 2 on there, you will strip those screws very likely, and there's nothing that ruins your day like something just like that. So in any case, wanted to hurry up and cover that before I forgot. Alright, for any of you that may be a first timer, there is the clip off the master link. There are the 2 pins now. You can see that they clearly are a little different from the side profile. I have not pushed that out yet, but now it would just be a matter of pushing those pins out. I'm going to try to do that on camera, but I wanted to make one quick point, especially if you're doing a conversion like me. I am switching from this O-ring chain, or I'm sorry, yeah, the O-ring chain to a roller chain. I'm going with this Pro Taper. We've been using them on the dirt bikes. They're pretty cheap. Make sure that you're getting a new master link with your new chain. I wanted to pull this out and confirm that mine was in the package. I have heard sometimes these do not come with the new master link. I cannot imagine why they would ever sell a chain without one, but I've seen just in reading and research in the past where people have opened their new chain to find that they did not have a master link. So confirm you have one before you get into this, because this master link from this old one I don't believe would work with this, even if you were in a pinch just trying to put it back together temporarily to be able to drive it. So that's definitely something you want to make sure and check. I'm going to move some of the stuff out of the way here and then get back to popping that old master link out. Alright, trying to do this without the help of my sidekicks. We're all busy doing the various things that boys do, but I was able to use a hammer, small hammer, just to tap my screwdriver in here to get this link kind of started. And it's just a matter of, this is an old chain, so we're not trying to reuse anything, it's just a matter of, oops, sorry. Just kind of working this thing off of those pins. They are tight. They are tight by design. Tolerances on these things would be pretty close, but there she is. And then this thing, we'll just start to pull off here. I mean, look at this. This thing is so tight. It can hold its shape. And I'll be totally honest. I don't know what a brand new O-ring chain feels like. I've never bought one. It could be a characteristic of them. I'm really not sure, but if that is, I would have to imagine you're losing quite a bit of power to the chain. But again, the factory, this O-ring chain is like $100, and I'm sure you could order same size O-ring chain, non-factory, you know, aftermarket replacement. But they're, in general, they're not cheap. They are expensive. I know a lot of trail bikes come with these O-ring chains new. I think they just last longer in general with lower maintenance. And you can just go a little longer between replacements. For us, this thing, it'll be a couple years yet before we're really pushing it hard. I may go back to an O-ring chain at that time, but for now, just getting this off here and throwing a roller chain on, you know, the next year or two, this thing really is doing mostly yard riding, and that's going to work fine for us. But I think this thing just feels toast to me. I mean, every link. None of them feel stuck, but they all will hold whatever shape you put them in. So, any case, there's that. I'm going to finish pulling off that front sprocket and get this thing laid out so that we can get the new one trimmed down. Alright, old chain off, laid out. I like to kind of pair them up and then spin the ends up. Get the new chain opened up and laid out with the exact same amount of links and length. Sorry, I hear the neighbor grinding sticks with his mower. In any case, and then I kind of cheat. I don't know if it's the proper method or not, but I use the old angle grinder to grind off the new chain, of course, but the pin, the head off the pin, just down to the link so that I can push it through. And you will need chain brake tools such as this. This is like a Harbor Freight one. I knew we wouldn't be doing these things a lot, and it's the perfect kind of tool to have the cheap model for me. So that being said, I'm gonna get this chain, hands are gonna get greasy, and I'm gonna get this new chain out, get it laid out, sized up, and we'll shoot a couple little clips in there of each step. But again, hands are gonna be nasty. I'm not gonna be able to hold the camera, so it's gonna get a little cut up from here. So we have the chains matched up, and I think the first thing, if you're doing a conversion like I am, that you'll notice that the O-ring chain is wider overall, outside to outside, than roller chain is, and that's fine. The dimensions of the chain, and I measured this, and that's how I came up with the MX 428 size chain. The dimension, the overall outer does not matter. Most of it is the inner dimensions to mate up to your sprocket. And so again, this 2013 Polaris Sportsman 90, I came up with the 428 series chain. Not one of the more common sizes, didn't seem to me, but in any case, we've got them matched up link for link. You can't go wrong if you always match up the pin centers. That's one of the measurements actually that is critical. So getting over top of the chain, you can see that the one I'm going to need to match up to this guy is the guy down here, which means I need to remove this pin. I like to put Sharpie mark on which pin I need to remove so that I don't get confused once this thing gets moved. So got some helpers now to make this a little bit easier. We'll get this thing, the pin head ground off there, and get it set up in the chain brake, and we'll be back. Let's try to get this thing centered on the pin. You can see, get up close, you can see it's starting to go. And that's the thing about grinding the head off, is that it doesn't take much effort to push the pin. Once you've done that, there it is. There's the other side. So we'll just take this thing off and should be able to lay this right on the quad and be back. You'll find that in some cases like this, there's a significant amount of extra chain left. Resist the urge. It's useless. Put it in the trash. Rolling nice and smooth. Just need to pop these covers back on, the sprocket protectors and guards, and we should be in good shape. Was able to do that without removing the wheel well there, which helped quite a bit. So anyway, I hope this helps somebody. Obviously, like and subscribe if you feel like these videos are the kind that you like to watch. Thanks.